Smile.
But I'm not happy.
People
Why are you
staring.
I don't want to do this.
You have to. They'll know
No one
something's
cares
wrong.
about your
Why
life.
is that bad?
Nobody cares. They won't understand.
Nobody
I want to
cares.
go home. You'll hurt their feelings.
This was ridiculous.
What are we even talking about?
Just
You want
keep
to keep them
them
happy.
What if they
They're
think
gonna
you're
be mean.
stupid?
Just keep them happy. Just keep them happy.
Just lie.
I'm not here to sugarcoat, life's already a bumpy road. Too much shelter causes pain, let's just be real honest. Things are gonna knock you down, avoidance will not help you out. Let's talk it through, here me and you, let's keep it real honest.
You are listening to Real Honest, the podcast where I share candid thoughts and feelings about life, love, and relationships, God and church, adulting, the workplace, and all the things in between. I'm your host. My name is Samantha, and you probably won't always like me, but I will always be honest with you. Also, I summoned the energy to record this about 20 seconds ago, and I don't have a topic yet, so let's see how this goes. Quick goals check-in in case it is helpful for anyone to get like a real-time example of when you reprioritize things. So I think when I recorded my last episode, I was super excited that I did like a 10-hour writing session or something. It was like all day. I was super excited. I got a ton of writing done. But I also bit all of my nails, and apparently I have a really bad nail biting problem. And apparently writing is an activity that puts you in like deep focus mode. And when you're in deep focus, that's something that causes nail biting if you have that habit. I bite my nails super, super low, like they were all bleeding and like really in pain, and it was awful. So I have not done any writing in the past 2 weeks in an effort to grow my nails back out to a non-painful length, and I did succeed in that endeavor. So it's one of those things that I was really in the zone and I was really excited, and I had a lot of ideas that I wanted to get out, but I wanted to prioritize my finger health, I guess you would call it. So in that case, that was a shift where that was more important to me than getting more words on the page. I have tried all the things to stop biting my nails. So before anyone emails realhonestpod@gmail.com with get the nail polish or use hot sauce or get fidget spinners, nothing works for me, but I'm working on it. Also, in the time that I have not been writing, I have been reading a lot, and I have been watching a lot of TV, which that's not new. I'm always watching a lot of TV, but I'm one book away from hitting my reading goal, and I've read probably 10 books in the past 2 weeks that I have not been writing anything. So that's been really exciting, of just seeing how other authors structure books to try to get some more ideas. And then I've also been watching a lot of stuff that's either YA or that is espionage focused to help me get more ideas for my book as well, and certain ways that I want to structure scenes and dialogue and that kind of stuff. So that's been a really fun new goal. I guess not really new goal, but new aspect of the overall goal. I'm still attributing all these things to part of the process of writing my book. I feel like what I'm learning from God in this season is patience, which I know, it's a whole thing. But really, I'm getting a lot of reminders about things, I think. So for an example, I've mentioned on here before that my boss and I don't get along super well. And about a year ago, I was using one of the conversations he and I had as an example of something in the small group that I lead. And one of the girls in my small group had asked, hey, have you ever tried praying for him? I know it's the workplace and he's been clear that he's an atheist, so I'm not saying pray with him, but I just mean pray over him and your relationship and your meeting every week before you get in your one-on-one, because she was also having an issue with somebody at work and said that had been really helpful for her. And so I did start doing that, and I feel like things did get pretty consistently better, and I don't fully remember why I stopped praying before our meetings. I think it was because things improved, and then I was like, all right, I don't have to do this anymore. But then when they got a little rocky and uncomfortable again, I forgot that I had tried that strategy a year ago, and I just went back to trying to avoid speaking to him and complaining about it to my friends. And so I got a little reminder the other day from somebody else that was hey, have you tried praying? And I was like, you know what? I did in the past and it worked, but I have not this most recent time. And when I say worked, I'm not intending to imply that I said a prayer and then suddenly my boss and I became best friends. It was more that his management style is not complementary to my work style. And there's just the way that we each do things really clash, and it's difficult to work through. And it's not that those things went away either, but it was more about my attitude. Like I felt like praying before I met with him would help me to focus more in the meeting. So instead of focusing on the things that were bothering me or that made me uncomfortable, I was able to ask questions and answer questions in a way that kept the discussion focused on what needed to get done and what was the best way for us to do it, so that I could kind of just like get in and get out and keep moving and not kind of dwell on the things that weren't working. And then just in that same vein of like learning, or I guess relearning, being reminded about the need to be patient when it comes to how God works, is that because of some stuff that happened at work earlier this year that resulted in a bunch of layoffs, I started panic applying to other jobs. And even though like I was not impacted by this layoff, does not mean that there won't be another one that I will be impacted in the future. So I was trying to come up with a contingency plan for myself, as I think most humans do. And I think the more people are talking about job stuff, especially in tech right now, is everyone's like, you have to have 3 or 4 jobs because everyone's getting laid off all the time, and it's just a crazy mess in corporate America. And I've been laid off before years ago, and I would really love to never experience that again, or at least be in a better place than I was last time if I do experience it again. And obviously for most of us, it's easier to look for a job when you have a job. Well, it's kind of a crapshoot, because it's like if you don't have a job, then you have more time to look for a job, but then you have more urgency. So it's easier when you have a job, even though you have less time, because then you can be more selective about what you apply for, what you interview for, what you get. And so if you are panic applying, where you're like, I just need a job and I'm going to apply to anything and everything, then you're more likely to end up with something that like you don't really want, because you're like, I'm desperate and I'm going to just take the first thing offered to me. So I was trying to be cognizant of that and really focus in on what is going to use the skills that I have, but also what is going to develop new skills. What am I actually interested in? And I think what I found is that I don't totally know, because I don't know every job that's out there. I don't know every industry. I only know who I know and what I know. And so somebody that I know was hiring at their company, and on face value, I was like, that does not interest me. The industry doesn't interest me. The job doesn't interest me. Like, that's not something I would ever want to do. But because I knew somebody there, I was like, let me apply, have some conversations and see. And then as I was going through the interview process, I actually got really excited about it. And I was like, this is actually exactly what I want to do. This seems like an awesome company and great people work there and a really awesome team. And I thought that I wanted to be remote forever, but now I'm like, I actually think that I want to go back into an office. And there was just a lot that I learned about myself through the process, and everything was like moving really quickly and feeling really good. And now like some weeks have passed and I haven't heard anything. And so I did mentally, I did a complete 180 where I was like, all right, I'm not getting the job. I don't want the job. It's fine. Like, it's gone. It's off the table. And I feel like God's been pulling me back and being like, it's not off the table. Like, you have not been ghosted. You were given a timeline. It is still within that timeline. You need to just calm down and chill out and wait for an answer. And that just got me thinking about how easy it is to abandon hope when we don't see progress. I mean, for anything, and I'm guilty of this too, so I'm not trying to say that I'm better than anyone else, but with working out, if I could see physical differences after every workout, I would work out every day. But the fact that I can work out 5-6 days a week for multiple weeks and not see any physical differences really makes me feel like, what's the point? And that's why I have to focus on okay, well, are there differences that maybe aren't physical? Am I having more energy, and am I more hydrated? Do I feel stronger? And I try to focus on those benefits, and I try to make those more important benefits to work toward. And even with friendships, it's you make a new friend, you hang out one time, it's really fun, you're really excited, and then you hang out a second time and maybe it's less fun, or maybe you find out something about an opinion they hold that you really disagree with, and you're like, oh no, we can't be friends, and it becomes so much bigger than it is, where you're like, maybe it was just one thing that isn't really that big a deal, and you can totally move on and still be friends, but you're not going to agree on everything all the time. And I know I've mentioned on here before that like God is not a genie. So the point of prayer is not like I want $10, so I pray for $10 and then $10 appears. You know, the point of prayer is to align my desires with God's and to change my heart and my perspective to help me see things more clearly. So instead of the like, I want $10, give me $10, it might be I need $10 to pay this bill and I don't have $10. How can I think outside of the box to get $10? Who can I ask for help? What's the late payment window if I need to pay this bill late? What's the worst thing that happens to me if I don't pay it on time? And is that actually something that I can't live with? And through the process of going through all of those different options, usually it's like, all right, this is just not as big of a deal as I initially thought. At the end of the day, whether you get the $10 or you don't get the $10, panicking about it isn't going to help you. And at least in my experience, I feel like when praying over the thing is never about getting the $10, it's about being able to logically think through options and identify what the steps and the order to take them so that you can have peace while working through the problem, as opposed to just doing everything in a big anxious panic. Which leads me back to my current lesson of patience because, you know, obviously, like all other job seekers, I want to apply to one job one time that I want, and I want that to magically be the job that's going to hire me, and I want them to hire me the next day, and I want them to pay me 10 times more than I'm making right now, and I want the commute to be short, and I want the team to be great, and I want everything to just fall into place and fit together, and that's just not how it works. You know, applying to jobs is a process of updating your resume over and over and over again and searching all the sites and working your network and talking to people and meeting people, and it takes time. And even though I would love for it to take 2 weeks or 2 months, it might take 2 years. And I think like my lesson from God in that is not abandoning the hope that God is working on it and that God cares about me and wants me to have a job that is fulfilling with a good team and with a boss that I feel like our styles complement one another and work well together, and that it may just take longer than I want it to. But the fact that it takes longer than I want it to does not mean that the prayer didn't work or that I'm not ultimately going to get to a better place. It just means that I need to be patient and still believe that it's happening. So I was sitting here trying to come up with a topic for today, and I was literally just scrolling through all of Taylor Swift songs because I name most of my episodes after T Swift lyrics. If you're new here and didn't know that, that's a thing that I do. So I basically was just sitting here like, what's my favorite bridge? Because for most people, it's Cruel Summer. My favorite bridge is not Cruel Summer. It is from But Daddy, I Love Him. Now, it's been recently brought to my attention that there are people who don't sit and read the lyrics to songs when they listen to them. Maybe it's because I'm a singer, maybe it's because I'm a writer, but I feel like the story that the song is telling is half the experience of listening to the song. And I don't listen to music if I don't like the story that the song is telling. I have never in my life put on a song and not listened to the lyrics at all and been like, I just like the beat. I really like other languages. I love Spanish. I love Korean. I have a lot of music that's not in English on my phone, and I will translate the song if I hear it and really love it to make sure that I also like the story that it's telling if I'm not familiar with it. Like if I didn't hear it in English first and then I just downloaded it in 16 different languages. But I mean like if I first heard it in Spanish and I don't know Spanish well enough to know what it's saying, I will translate the song to make sure I like the story that it's telling before I keep it in my library as something that I regularly listen to. Not that it matters if other people don't do that. I'm just giving you guys the background to say like I'm very sad for people that don't pay attention to lyrics because that's like the beautiful and interesting part of music to me. But so the bridge of But Daddy, I Love Him is God save the most judgmental creeps who say they want what's best for me, sanctimoniously performing soliloquies I'll never see, thinking it can change the beat of my heart when he touches me and counteract the chemistry and undo the destiny. I don't care what anyone says. You can't tell me this is not brilliant. And she's talking about how other people's opinions don't matter to her, even her fans, like people who claim to be fans of Taylor that are on the internet putting all of their thoughts out there of like, she shouldn't be dating this guy and she shouldn't be doing this and she shouldn't be doing that. And oh no, she's got those glowing orbs for that one song in the tour and now she's being a witch and that's terrible. And she's just sitting there like, I care about the music that I am creating and the people in my life that I am making baked goods for. And it's honestly a waste of your energy as a person who thinks that they love or hate me, that doesn't even know me, to spend time complaining or trying to change anything that I do because I don't know you, I'm never going to see it, and it doesn't matter. So my topic for today is, why is it so hard for all of us to just mind our own damn business? Now, I do understand that humans exist, like we all have cause and effect relationships to one another, right? I totally understand that if you are a CEO of a company, like you're going to make decisions that are going to impact your entire company. Like the president is going to make decisions that impact the entire country. Like I totally get that. So I'm not saying to fully ignore and avoid everything and everyone outside of yourself and the people that are immediately put in your life. But I do think that all of us should be focusing our efforts on the people that we can make a direct and immediate impact to, meaning like the people that live in our homes and our neighborhoods and our community, the people in our families, our friends, the people that we work with, like people who we are doing life with and living life with, actually impacting day to day. I think those are the people that we should be focusing our efforts on more than people that we are never going to meet. I think that we all have a purpose and a mission in this life. And even if you don't believe in God and you don't think that there's any rhyme or reason to like why people exist, you still have a job and you have a family and you have friends and you're impacting their lives and they're impacting yours. And some of our circles are going to be larger than others. You know, like I'm a part of a global church. I lead a small group that is international. I have people in my group that live in other countries, which is awesome. I love to hear about that. And I think it's awesome that there are organizations that allow people to send money to make an impact other places in the world. So when I say like your community, you know, I honestly do not know the neighbors that live to the right or the left of me or across the street. I don't go to a whole lot of community events because my personal community is more digital than it is physical. Like I have an online church community, I have an online work community, and that gives me access to people in other parts of the world. So when I'm talking about like your community, I'm talking about the people that are specifically in your life day to day, whatever that looks like for you. So if I am your boss and I make a decision that either positively or negatively impacts you, I think that you get to have an opinion on that as my team member and share how you feel. If I am not your boss and you and I don't even work together, but you and I are friends, or you are a family member or a mentor, or you are somehow connected to me where you and I are in each other's lives, and I share with you that I have made a decision at work and you don't feel like I have fully thought through the negative impacts that decision had on my team members and the people that I manage, then I think that you are free to share your opinion and your feedback with me as a friend, understanding that I may listen to it and I may not, but ultimately the feedback is going to have less of an impact than the people that are directly impacted by it giving feedback. But if you're not in either of these groups, if you are like a random person who read an article that spoke about a decision that I made and you feel like the decision was bad, and then you're sending me like a long angry email, that's going to just fall into the void. It's going to get deleted immediately because I'm going to be like, if you don't own shares in my company, if you are not in management at the company or on my team or in any way connected to the decision, nor are you a person who's in my life, then why am I going to listen to your opinion? And your opinion may totally be valid. It may be very smart, but like, you ultimately have to build relationships with people to get to a point with the people where they're going to hear you. But I guess that in itself is the reason why it's so hard for everyone to mind their own business, because I think too many of us are too worried about everyone else and their opinions, and we all want to be liked. We all want everyone to love us everywhere we go, which isn't realistic, because people have to know you before they can truly love you. And with the amount of time that you have to spend with someone in order for them to really get to know you, you can't possibly get to know everyone, even the people that you interact with. Even if you take the internet away and like your larger community, if you restrict the people that you're talking to your immediate friends, family, and coworkers, you don't have the time for every single one of them to really, really get to know you on a deep enough level to be able to truly love you. And I think that if more of us understood that, then it would be easier to be out in the world and take what people say and do with a grain of salt, and understand that like, that person who doesn't like me, or that person who hates the song that I put out or the podcast that I put out or whatever it is, their life experience and their relationships have made them interpret the thing that I put out in a certain way. Also, especially if they don't know me, they're using the 20 seconds of whatever it is that they saw or heard or listened to form a full opinion of me as a person. And I need to understand that that's what's being done, and that they don't actually know me. And once I peel back to say like, okay, that person actually doesn't know me well, therefore if they don't like me, I don't even know that it's true that they don't like me, because they don't know me well enough to be able to decide if they like me or not. And so then I just move on. And it's like, why am I going to sit here and try to explain myself to a stranger when I'm like, there are all of these people who already do know and love me that I can focus my efforts on. It takes time, you guys, but you can train your social media algorithms. And I know this because I have done it. And it took me a very long time. Like, I think it took me about 8 months. Now, this was because I was only spending 10 minutes a day on it. So I imagine today you can do it a lot quicker by spending more time. But I mean, like, you can restrict the time that you spend on the apps. And if right now, when you get on social media, if you are like doom scrolling and you're feeling really terrible and you're getting angry, like, you can train your mind to, like, anytime you see a post that makes you feel upset or enraged or not good enough, or like you're comparing, hit unfollow. Like, get on there and type in things that you love, like puppies or whatever. And, if you get on there and you're seeing like too many headlines, you can close the app immediately to tell the app that that's not what you want to see when you open the app. Because all of these different sites and apps, like, their goal is to keep you on it as long as possible. So teach it what to show you that's going to keep you on there longer, but that's also not going to be mentally draining for you. And I'm not trying to promote living in an echo chamber. I'm not saying unfollow every single person that disagrees with you. I follow lots of people that I disagree with, but I follow people that I disagree with who share their opinions in thoughtful ways that are not out here specifically to incite rage. And this can be about anything. Like, it does not have to be political. I know, like, the book talk community is huge, and some people just like put out negative opinions about books specifically to get clicks and to piss people off. Those are book review accounts that I won't follow. Whereas there are people who thoughtfully say, like, I don't think that this author is a good writer, and here's why. Or I think this author is a great writer, but I really think that they failed to accomplish this particular goal in this particular part of the book. Like, I'm interested in thoughtful, thought-provoking conversation that's going to help me learn something, that's going to help me grow. And if the intent of whatever it is that I'm consuming is just to appeal to my negative emotions and incite action based off of anger or fear, those are things that I'm immediately going to close and unfollow and drift away from, because I don't want to make my decisions out of fear and anxiety. Like, same thing earlier when I was talking about panic applying. I think part of why I did not get called for interviews for any of the jobs that I panic applied for is because that's something that I have asked God to work with me on. Is like, I don't want to make decisions from a place of panic and fear. And so if I'm applying for jobs out of panic and fear, I don't want to be rewarded with interviews. You know, I only want to be rewarded with interviews when I have actually reviewed the job and the company and the people and done my due diligence and my research, and I'm actually interested, and it's something that I feel like I'm actually going to grow in and learn in, and it's not just about money, because that personally, I don't want to be driven by money. I don't want to be driven by greed or fear. Like, I personally want to be driven by kindness and love and acceptance, and I want to move in a way that helps other people and that also helps me, and I'm looking for content that does that. But I am also aware that this will require a certain level of self-awareness, because if you're doing the exercise of like, I'm going to unfollow any account that's like triggering anger and anxiety, you have to know what the source of that anger and anxiety is. You know, is the creator trying to incite that in you, or are you feeling angry just because you don't agree with them, because you are used to getting pissed off every time somebody disagrees with you, because that makes you feel small or unimportant or whatever it is. My hard conversation this week was with a friend that I think watches the news too much. And like, they were really upset about something they saw in the news. And I had to just candidly be like, dude, I don't even know what you're talking about, because I don't watch the news. But, you know, happy to be a friend and like hear you out. And so they told me about what was going on and how they were feeling about it. And I listened, and I do my best to not try to give people advice. I really just listened. But what was interesting to me was a few hours later, I had a different friend who called me and held a completely opposite opinion of the same news story. And I was like, oh, interesting, because I consider both of these people to be intelligent. I consider both of these people to be well-educated and thoughtful and very good at articulating their thoughts. And I was like, how is it that these two people are like so opposite here? And so I told them both, I was like, you know, I think it's totally possible that you both are seeing probably the same stories with different headlines that are tailored to you and other things that you read and other things that you click on. And you're maybe seeing the same clips that have been edited differently to tell different narratives. But me, as somebody who hasn't seen any of the clips and hasn't read any of the headlines, because I'm not interested in the news anymore, so I'm just like, it makes me anxious and sad, and I don't want to be anxious and sad, so I'm focusing my efforts on other things. But as like, just I got into more detail with both of them about the actual news story, like I found myself getting angry and sad. And so the next time that like the first friend called and wanted to talk about it again, I had to just candidly be like, you know what? I understand that this is something that like you're bothered by, but the additional information that I have gotten, I don't like, and I really can't be a sounding board for this anymore. I would have to do a lot of research in order to form my own opinion on the story itself, and I don't care enough to do that, and I'm not going to do that. But I also don't share your opinion, and so I'm not going to sit here. I can't disagree with you without doing the research that I don't want to do, but I also can't agree with you. And so now it's like, we're going to end up just fighting, and what's that doing for either of us? And the thing that we do have in common right now is we both really love this TV show, and we can keep talking about like the fictional atrocities that are going on in that show and disagree with each other on that, because those people aren't real and no one's getting hurt by me hating a character that you love or vice versa or whatever. And I think that for a lot of people, it would probably be like, just do the research and like learn about the news story, which like I could, but it's like either way, what difference does it really make? Like, it's not going to change what happened. It's not going to change the fact that it's a polarizing event that some people are excited about and some people are upset about and whatever. I am just like, I want to focus on the people that are in my life. And the people that are in my life is these two friends that feel a different way about this thing that happened in the news. And I am just like, how can I best support my friends and what they're going through? I can listen to them. And if it gets to a point where I'm like, all right, I don't feel like you've done enough research, and I no longer feel like I can be a supportive sounding board. It was just letting people know that when I got to that point, like that's the best that I can do as a friend. And if they need a sounding board or support or whatever, like I will be that as long as I can. And when I can't, then I just need to be able to make that call and make that decision and then move on. And I think the hardest part of both of those conversations is that I don't like to feel dumb. So I really I almost went and did the research so that I could form an opinion. But I was like, I have done so much work to train news stories out of my algorithm that I don't want to put it back in just so that I can finish these conversations when I can tell these people that I just want to talk about something else instead. And also, like, these friends of mine don't know each other. They're not friends with each other. They're never going to meet. They will never be in a room together. So it's not like I had to worry about them disagreeing on something. But I think it also was interesting just learning like how well each of them knew me through these conversations and how well I knew them, and just kind of being encouraged in some ways by that and disappointed in others, because I always do that thing where it's like I feel like I have all these really close friends, and then you have like one conversation where you can't quite meet in the middle, and then it's like, oh no, was this a bad decision? Can we actually not be friends? Is another friend that I have to lose? And I think it was really working through that of being like, no, this is not something that's worth losing anybody over. This is as simple as like, I want to talk about something else. What I'm watching right now, I had 2 screenings in the last week. So I saw A Big Bold Beautiful Journey, which I really loved. Oh, I just thought it was beautiful. I have a full review on my website where I explain all of my thoughts, but the other critics were not into it. I will mention that the majority of the St. Louis critics list is straight white men, and this is a romantic movie, and straight white men tend to prefer shoot 'em up, bang bang. So I think that it was more of it wasn't for like, I saw this movie with other people that were not the target audience. I think it's a great movie. I really, really loved it. And then I saw Him, which interestingly I saw with a bunch of people who were absolutely the target audience of that film. Everybody seemed to generally have the same reaction, which was that the movie is very entertaining. It's very weird and uncomfortable, which is what we expect from Jordan Peele. So, that's what you get. I was on board for 90% of the movie, and then they totally lost me in the last scene. And I honestly do not know if I am not smart enough for what the writers were trying to say and I just didn't get it, or if I just didn't like or agree with it, whatever it was that was happening at the end. I felt like we went a little too far. I love a horror movie. I love a thriller. Senseless murder and gore bothers me. I am just I feel like we were on a trajectory where there was a level of weird, a level of gross, a level of uncomfortable, and then we took that to a different level without really properly building up to it or making sense, in my personal opinion. But I did not review him because I honestly don't think that I fully understood what they were trying to do enough to be able to write a full review. But it was very entertaining. Also, Tariq and Marlon are both shirtless for like a good 70% of the film, and I would see it again just for that. Thank you so much for listening. Please leave a review if you feel like. New episodes on Wednesdays at 6 a.m. Central. Questions, comments, concerns, or want to chat, send an email to realhonestpod@gmail.com. Okay, bye!
I'm not here to sugarcoat, life's already a bumpy road. Too much shelter causes pain, let's just be real honest. Things are gonna knock you down, avoidance will not help you out. Let's talk it through, hear me and you, let's keep it real honest.